ask you is, as the daughter of the father of the India's nuclear energy program, are you happy that we have finally joined the nuclear club? As you know, one has to wait for 25 years to get a membership of the Hyderabad club in a similar manner. Are you happy?
I'll answer the third one first because it's the simplest. The answer is no. No, my father stood for India not getting into the nuclear race. He was a space scientist, and I think one of the things that killed him was Indira Gandhi's pressure on him to go nuclear, and his conscience did not permit it. He was the chairman of the World Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty for 20 years. It's called the Pugwash Convention. So he never wanted India to go nuclear. He didn't want any country to go nuclear. So no, I'm not happy at all. And not because he thought so, but because I know our country and I know how wonderful our safeguards are on various things. On Gujarat, yes, we have always had communal riots, but that was one fringe group of Muslims fighting one fringe group of Hindus. Mostly it was between bootleggers. So it was not about the business community, it was that there were people who were in the bootlegging community in Prohibition, Gujarat, and it was mostly them. They happened to be two competing groups of people, one was run by Hindus, one was Muslim. The rest of society did not get involved. The great difference in 2002 was twofold. One is that the police and the government machinery actually helped. The civil hospital gave oxygen cylinders to Hindu rioters who pumped oxygen into Muslim women and then set them on fire. The petrol pumps of the ST actually gave petrol to people who put petrol on tires, put the tires on people and burnt them. This was from government godowns, officially given. That was one difference. The second difference was that the entire middle class took part in the looting. There was your doctor, your dentist, your chartered accountant, your banker out in cars at different shops on mobile phones saying, the Nike sizes here are better, come and loot here. I am not joking. The entire middle class became criminal looters. There were cars, and we have documents of this. There are people who have filmed this entire thing. It was happening outside our house. There are people who went out in Marutis, came back and took their bigger cars out because there was more to be looted. So two huge things happened. One was that the state became a culprit, and the second was that whatever their thoughts of Hinduism, anti-Muslim, anti-this, anti-that, the middle class became criminals. That was it. What was your other question? About changing textbooks. I am not talking of changing history textbooks. That happens with every new sort of regime. And there is nothing like neutral history. But when a 7th standard textbook, social studies textbook, has a chapter which says Hitler, the hero of Europe, that is not a question of history, that is a question of distortion of fact of one of the most horrendous regimes in the history of humanity in the last century. That's not about whether you like me or I like you. Hitler killed 6 million Jews. It's not about whether I like Israel. I don't. I think they're Zionist, awful people. The government did, anyway. But that doesn't change the fact that Hitler was a killer and he actually used the state machinery and the government to kill. And to then tell an entire state, the children of a state, that he was the greatest hero of Europe, I certainly don't think that's okay.
So,
I have about 9 long questions I'll ask you.
I have brief one here, madam.
yeah.
Okay, we'll come to you next.
Let him complete. He's waiting.
Okay, we have the last 2 questions now.
No.
Listen, give me a break.
You have some water.
Well, hats off to you, madam. Well, I have just a brief question. How do you rather suffer happily? Go ahead, whatever talk you are told. So there it appears that you are already undergone a lot of different hardships and sufferings. See, whenever a man has got a new idea, So for that, we have to pay a very heavy price. How do you do it happily, suffer happily? I learn from you.
I like to think that I put my actions where my mouth is. I was terrified at times during the whole Gujarati. One of the things that terrified me was that I constantly asked myself whether I had the right to put the 80 people in Darpana, my mother, my children, my brother and his family, into jeopardy because of what I believed. That was a constant question. But at the end of that question, I still said, they can disown me if they want to, but I can't do anything else. I will speak out or I have to kill myself. Because I will not be able to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow and say, you are doing what your conscience tells you to do. And I had long conversations in my mind about Gandhiji. I've even created a show called Swakranti, the revolution within, where the show, the whole context of the performance is my conversation with Gandhi. About was he afraid? I was shit scared. Was he afraid? I'll come and do it for you sometime.
Sweet.
You started with saying that Indians find it difficult to find themselves, and then you also went on to say that we've been enslaved for centuries together.
I didn't say Indians find themselves, I said we do.
We, yeah.
We meaning humanity.
Okay. Now, this enslavement, I think, has led to a lot of lack of national pride. Do you think there are any solutions to bring that national pride back to be all of us?
You know, unfortunately today national pride becomes jingoism.
Right.
And that comes from a lack of understanding our own culture. How many of us actually, you know, we say, ऐसा insult कर दिया रामायण को. How many have actually read more than one version of Ramayana? They've probably read Amar Chitrakatha. But do you know this case recently of the Prime Minister's daughter who is a history professor? She was a visiting professor at St. Stephen's College. And you know that today there are 300 extant versions of the Ramayana. Telugu has a woman's Ramayana which is extraordinary. It's so feminist and so bawdy that it's extraordinary. I don't know how many of you read Telugu, but you should get hold of it because it's like a 16th century feminist view of the Ramayana. Amazing. But there are 300 versions of the Ramayana, and different communities have made different people into their heroes or heroines. There is a Sita kind of Ramayana, and there is a Ramayana in which Ravana is the hero, and so on. The Prime Minister's daughter, I forget what her name is, was giving a lecture, and she had passed on the notes. And the notes talked about the different versions of the Ramayana and the different contradictions. These notes happened to be sitting in the office of the Dean of History, who happened to be Muslim. So the Bajrang Dal, with television cameras in crew, walk into his office. They pull down all the files, all the books, break his desk, break his furniture, and call him anti-Hindu because he dares to question our version of the Ramayana. Now, first of all, he had nothing to do with it except that they happened to be lying on his table. But this our version, what is this our version? The our is plurality, and we are trying to reduce it. You know, the greatest strength of Hinduism is the plurality. That I can pick up a chappal and I can light an agarbatti in front of that chappal and I can say, this to me represents my goddess or my god. And it's okay, because it is what I feel is my mimic, that is what Hinduism talks about. So you can't say that that is wrong in Hinduism. The great strength is that there are no rules. And what our people are trying to reduce it to is to be exactly like Islam or Christianity, where there are commandments that you have to follow, and if you don't follow the commandments, you are no longer a Hindu. By doing that, they are actually completely breaking the spirit of Hinduism. So when you talk of nationalist pride, what is the nation we should be proud of? I, with all my critics of India and of us as a people, I don't think you could find a prouder Indian than I am. But I am not a jingoistic. I don't try and cover it saying Mera Bharat Mahan behind my car. I think we have the possibility, we have been there, we have the possibility. All we need to do is get in touch with our culture. You know, all these people who say Ved mein aisa, how many of them have actually read the Vedas?
You think the simpler solution is economic resources?
Not unless it passes down to the 70% that it's not passing down to. I think globalization as it is today is a lousy idea. I think, for instance, what is happening in Bengal, had the government and the Tata said that when we buy land of you, we will first of all buy it at a fair price, but secondly, because your land is being taken away from you, we are going to train 2 or 3 people from your family into the skills we need for this factory so that there is employment coming straight back into your factory. Nobody will remind you. Why aren't we doing things like that? Why aren't we actually thinking inclusiveness? So many problems could get solved like that, but we don't think it through. In Gujarat, what has happened with all these SEZs are that these poor farmers are being given 1 crore, 2 crores. They have never seen this kind of money. So they go ballistic. They want a house like SRK had in Falana film. And within 2 months, they have spent all their money. They have no farm, they have no money. And then they commit suicide. The number of suicides of entire families in Gujarat has not been recorded anywhere except the website of the Gujarat government. What they say is completely untrue, their website is correct. They haven't read it yet.
Last question or so before I make mine. Yeah.
What if Darpan to protect the rights of those Karseviks who were burned?
What does Darpan do to those, to protect the rights of?
Those Karseviks who were burned in that crime in Gujarat.
We work with anybody who is getting a raw deal. It doesn't matter whether they are car sevaks or not. We work with Kashmiri Pandits and we work with the Muslims. For us, the issue is, for me especially, I work for wherever justice is not reaching. People ask me, why do I spend so much time working for women when there is so much more injustice? Because women, A, form 50% of the population, or 46 now that we've killed off so many. But even in a community which is exploited, the women of that community are exploited more. If you take the Dalits, for instance, Dalits might be exploited, but the Dalit women are exploited by the larger society and by their own men. So I just go wherever people need help or people need a voice. In this case, the car sevaks do not need a voice because the government has actually given them 5 times the compensation that anybody else has got. I'm sorry they were burnt. I'm sorry anybody is burnt. I'm sorry when anybody dies in